Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Now we are into the afternoon. My name is Owen Tunstead, and welcome to the October Innovation Network event. You're all very welcome to today's webinar, and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I just want to stress again that from past events, this Innovation Network event space is very much yours. If you or your organization has a project or an initiative like today, you believe could benefit your colleagues from across the public sector, please be sure to get in touch with the team to discuss potentially presenting at one of our own events. Today we're focusing on the Public Service Innovation Fund, and we are featuring two citizen-centric or social innovation projects, depending on your persuasion, each approaching this from different angles. Since its introduction in 2019, the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform's Public Service Innovation Fund has supported 87 projects and provided approximately 2.7 million in grants to public sector bodies, while changing concepts of innovation in public service. So today we're welcoming back two project leads to the Innovation Network event series to discuss the impacts of their projects and their experiences with the funding cycle. First up, we have Dr. Stephen Brennan. Stephen is currently leading the strategy and partnership activities of the Digital Hub in Smart 8. He has spent 7 years as the Chief Digital Advisor to the Irish Government, and in that time he authored the first national digital strategy. His passion is the application of digital technology and data analytics to drive innovation and solve big challenges. Funny story, he was inspired to develop the massively successful government enterprise initiative, the Trading Online Voucher Scheme, while sitting on a broken down tractor in Cavan. So I can already see them for some questions about this in the Q&A. But today, Stephen will be speaking to us about Smart DETE. In 2020, the project received €10,000 to identify and trial a series of collaborative initiatives that use smart processes and digital innovation to improve the lives for people in Dublin 8. Secondly, we welcome Aisling Mccarthy. Aisling is the Higher Executive Officer in the Climate Action and Economic Infrastructure Unit of the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, or DETE. In 2020, DETE received €50,000 from the fund to develop the Climate Toolkit for Business project. The toolkit provides practical and cost-effective actions that every business can take to support this transformation and build resilience. I can't say for certain that this idea was born on a tractor in Cavan, but I'm sure we might get to the bottom of it in the Q&A with Aisling a little later on. So there's a question for you already, Aisling. Get thinking. Just before we end, then we'll have Chris Kiernan, who's the Innovation Fund and Strategy Manager. He's going to join us and talk about the launch of the 2023 fund and the application process. And he'll also give us a little bit of insight onto Innovation Week 2022. So, just before we get started, attendees are invited to submit any questions or comments that you may have for the panel in the Q&A section. If you cannot see this, it should be in the bottom right, depending which way I'm pointing, bottom right of your screen. Simply select the three dotted button in the bottom right corner and select Q&A. But if you're having any trouble, please feel free to just send via chat to host, which is me. And I'll be sure to relay on any of your questions or comments to the panel at the very end. And finally, this event is being recorded and will be available to watch shortly afterwards. Now, I think you've had enough of me speaking at this point, so I'm going to hand over to our first speaker from Dublin, Smart Dublin, and to Stephen Brennan. Take it away. If we have Stephen, okay. Can we hear you okay? Do you want to go again there, Stephen?
A project called Smart DETE. And I hope we can all see that on our screens. Smart DETE is an example of a very interesting approach called collaboration involving multiple stakeholders in the public, private, academic, and obviously in the community sector. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the collaborative work that we're doing, and I'm going to explain actually how we use the Innovation Fund at the beginning of the initiative in order to be able for us to properly address the challenges with particular initiative. So the vision of Smart DETE is to work together as a consortium to try and tackle one of the really big issues that we've all seen, and that population health and wellness. And it really tries to focus on a set of actions that
Sorry, Steve, to
any
interrupt you.
individual.
Apologies. I just think we can't see your slides there, so I will share them for you. Apologies, I think just might be
Okay,
a little bit connection, so bear with
thank
folks
you.
as I will share Stephen's slides now. One moment.
Thank you.
Stephen. And one moment, guys. Sorry.
No problem.
No, sorry, Stephen, take it away. Apologies, you just guided
That's
me through
fine.
your presentation.
So if you move on to slide number 2, essentially the action, it was around a common theme that each of the consortium members had to try and do something from our own organizations to help with the health and well-being of our population. And individually, we can do certain things. Individually, we can take actions, we have certain finances available to us, we have certain resources, but collectively we could do a lot more in terms of this very large, wide, broad problem in and challenge for our country and for our society. Owen, if you can move to the next slide, please. So what I've done here is I've given you an example and an idea of the consortium that we've put together with Smart DETE. And as you'll see, we have major constituencies covered in terms of public, private, academic, but also, of course, focused on people, focused on the community. What we've done is we've thought about Dublin 8 and the residents of that part of the city centre, about 25,000 people, a very diverse demographic, young, old, rich, poor, and so on and so forth. And it gives us an example of a community that if we can apply innovative projects, technologies, services to that community, and if we can see improvements in the overall population health and well-being, if it will work within a Dublin 8 context, it will work anywhere. So we're using that as our demonstrator population. You'll see from the slide we have a range of partners that would traditionally be involved in health and well-being, but we also have a range of partners that traditionally may not have very extensive roles in that area, and that was a very specific and deliberate act, because what we wanted to try and do was focus as much on prevention as well as cure. How do we keep people well? How do we keep people active in their communities much longer? And those things have to do with environment, housing, transport, jobs, infrastructure, as well as being able to support those that are ill or sick in our community, and that would involve more of the healthcare professionals that you see within this consortium. So a very interesting approach to solving a very challenging, broad and wide problem is to bring together a set of committed partners that have different perspectives on the problem and try to find ways in which we can find those overlaps that might not have really existed in the past if we didn't draw this group together. Oh, and if we could move to the next slide, I just wanted to explain then, we used the Innovation Fund to do a set of primary research with this population in Dublin 8, these 25,000 or so people that live in this part of our city. And we wanted to look at a whole range of information that we could gain from this population about the challenges they face in a very wide variety of areas. And you'll see on the slide I've listed a number of pillars, and these pillars were essentially the information that we got from this primary research. Essentially what it gave us was the roadmap of what sort of problems this population faced, and the actions then that we took for the remainder of the project are based on these actual needs and focused on trying to address these problems in a deliberate but also in an innovative way using collaboration. So the Innovation Fund we used was really crucial in terms of doing this initial piece of work to define then the work for the rest of the project as we move forward. Owen, if you could move to the next slide. I just wanted to sort of outline what actually did the consortium do then, and essentially we saw collaborative, innovative pilots, initiatives focused on those themes that we've just seen from this primary research, that we work to try and impact the health and well-being of this 25,000 human population. We did an open call 21. We did a closed call, in other words, a call within the consortium in 2022. We had a variety of different pilots. We had some really interesting examples from external entities, technology companies that had products or services that they wanted to trial or demonstrate within this population. But a lot of the actions that we took, the pilots that we selected, we funded from within the consortium ourselves. So each of the consortium members not only did bring time, but they also brought some funding, pooled the funding together, leveraging the work that we had done with the Innovation Fund to try and exit some of these pilots with people in the Dublin area. And if we move on, Owen, I'm going to give you an example, just an example of some of the pilots that we conducted over the last couple of years. One of them was with an entity called Civic Dollars. And essentially what they are a platform organization that develop a community currency, a currency that can be earned by individuals in a community and spent by those individuals in that community. And what we did within this activity, collaborating with the local authority and other members of our consortium, we applied this local currency to encourage people within Dublin 8 to take exercise and to use the parks. And this was particularly prevalent as we were in the latter part of the lockdown in COVID when this pilot was being run. So we were encouraging people to take use of the parks, to take outdoor exercise, obviously with health and well-being outcomes there, but also then engaging with this local currency, either spending the local currency on rewards for taking that exercise or pooling those local resources together and gifting them to local organizations that could use this currency to draw down supports, for example, legal supports or accounting supports or logistic supports for the work that they do in the community. The other dividend of the project was, as we accumulated traffic, many thousands of people became members of this Civic Dollar in Dublin 8. Their actions in the parks provided very interesting insights to Dublin City Council on the use of the parks, the time of the day of the week, whether there were families, individuals, and so on. So a tremendous insight then in for Dublin City Council how to optimize parks as a service to the community which it serves. A very interesting example of collaborative, lateral thinking, engaging directly and engaging on something that has some scale and the potential to scale beyond Dublin 8. Owen, another example on the next slide, please. This is an example that sort of speaks to the core of healthcare, and that is those that are in a community that are managing a chronic illness, and how best to support those individuals staying healthier longer in their community. This project relates, the heart of the city relates to obviously heart conditions, and it involved not only partners within our consortium, but external commercial entities. Novartis is a very large pharmaceutical company, and we worked together on a program that educated and communicated the importance of being able to take medication regularly and to sustain as an individual my health while having an active life in a community. Program that engaged again a very wide number of stakeholders inside the consortium, outside the consortium, focused very much on an initiative scale directed at a problem specifically outlined in the primary research that we had done with our community at the beginning of the project. I think I've one more example, Owen, maybe if you could just change the slide. And again, to try and give you the breadth, I'm taking these examples to show the diversity of the types of pilots that we selected. This is a pilot related to beekeeping. And in an urban context, it doesn't always lend itself to the sort of environmental and sustainable programs. However, we discovered that as we try to support the local community with developing a sustainable social enterprise around beekeeping, that the challenge around scaling that program sufficiently to develop enough honey to be able to hire staff and maintain the program going forward. So what we've done is we've brought together technologists, academics, as well as those that are very active in the community to help build out this collection, this network of beehives. There are now 57 beehives in 12 locations in Dublin 8, one of the largest urban networks of beehives in Ireland. And we're producing honey, allowing a sustainable social enterprise to grow, engaging with young people and old people on how honeybees are healthy and well in the community, which of course is a direct reflection of how healthy and well the environment in which we all share in Dublin 8 is. So it is a great example here of using a particularly interesting idea to generate content, to generate information, to generate exchange, but also do it in a sustainable way. In our particular case, focused on sustainable social enterprise, allowing us to scale and sustain this project, and then using technology by making some of these beehives smart and using the data to be able to remotely manage some of these locations, but also engage students, young people, in a conversation about the health and well-being of bees. It gives us a great opportunity then in education and around health and well-being for the area itself. I think we move to the last slide, Owen. And essentially, the Innovation Fund has allowed us to do some with our community. It has given us a roadmap to bring together a wide variety of public, private, and academic stakeholders working with the community in Dublin 8 on challenging issues around well-being, delivering, co-funding those pilots together, and working in tandem with each other to try and amplify all of our individual efforts with the collective efforts. And that is essentially an example of a way of doing innovation, and we call that Smart D8. Thank you very much indeed.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Stephen. I think just even from listening to you, the sheer breadth and width of collaborators involved in this project alone is quite very impressive. I think that's something I'd like to pick up on later, certainly in the Q&A. And also B8, I'm very partial to a pun, so I really appreciated that anyway. Thank you very much for that anyway, Stephen. So next up, we are going to go on to Ashley Mccarthy from DETE, who's going to talk to us about the Climate Toolkit for Business. Just before Ashley speaks to us, we're just going to share a quick video that was made about the project for the launch. 1 second, folks. And No, that was just kind of give us a little sample about what the project was about. That was used at the start, at the launch of the project, just to kind of show how easy it is for businesses to kind of set and start their own journey on their own sustainable journeys. So we're going to hand over now to Aisling, who's going to give us a much more detailed presentation on the Climate Toolkit. So Aisling, I'm going to give you presenter rights now, and you should be able to share in a moment.
Yes, thank you very much, Ellen. And I hope that the video didn't steal my thunder and I don't repeating too much, but we'll go into a little bit more detail and talk a little bit more. So I'm going to talk to you about the why, what, how, and who of the Climate Toolkit for Business. So first of all, we're going to look at why. So this is our purpose. I'll talk you through the reasons why we undertook the project and the need for it. Then I'll look at what. So this is the result. This is the toolkit itself, and I'm going to demo some of its key features. Then I'll look a little bit more at the process of how we got there, and our working arrangements and what worked well and some of our challenges. And then throughout the presentation, I'll be very much mindful of the who. So, excuse me, the people that were involved, our steering group and our project team. So why was it needed? This little mess of tangled threads here sort of represents the kind of complex policy landscape for SMEs who wish to start decarbonising. And, you know, there's help out there, but they really haven't got time to dig into it or to figure out where to start. So at the beginning of the project, we undertook a survey of more than 500 businesses. And I hope you can see the results here, but they're split into 3 different size categories. So under 10 employees, 10 to 50 employees, and then 51 to 250 employees. And we asked them, have you or would you use a carbon calculator to quantify your emissions? And you'll see by the little small blue wedges in each of the 3 graphs that a small number had used carbon calculators before, but the vast majority hadn't. And of those that hadn't, again, a majority said that they would use one. So this to us demonstrated a need for the project and gave us kind of the buy-in really to go ahead. So why? The idea and the objective, it was aimed to provide SMEs as a single point of information and support in a complex policy space. And to answer the question for them, where do I start? The Public Service Innovation Fund announcement really provided the opportunity to facilitate cross-departmental collaboration and for my colleagues in DETE to get buy-in from DEC counterparts. But really, the fund, it catalysed wider cooperation on enterprise and climate action policy with the large number of stakeholders that we ended up working with. And then just to put it in a little bit of context, it was an action we committed to deliver on in the interim climate action plan and also an action in the current climate action plan 2021. So next, what is it? It's a carbon calculator tool and climate action plan generator aimed at Irish SMEs. It was launched in December 2021 by the Taoiseach and Minister Ryan jointly, and it provides SMEs with practical ways to take action to reduce their emissions. It also helps them increase their resilience and to remain competitive in the low carbon economy of the future. And as I said, it was developed jointly by DETE and DEC with input from state agencies and business representative bodies. So here's a first look at some of the organisations that were involved. So crucially, the enterprise agencies, SEAI, SkillNet, EPA and Irish Water provided a lot of the technical information and the information on the supports that they have available. We had buy-in from the private sector through IBEC and Chambers Ireland. And Fáilte Ireland came on board late in the project, but we've been doing a lot of really interesting work with them on perhaps the future and how it can be tailored for their sector in the tourism industry. So this is what it looks like. So if you log into climatetoolkit.business.gov.ie, this is what you'll see. This is our homepage. So you have a orange Get Started button here. So we want to really people to get in and get started with the calculator straight away. So this first part of the calculator prompts users to put in some simple information about the business, so their sector and their size. And then you'll see the tabs across the top of the calculator here are our 4 focus areas. So energy, travel, materials and water. And these 4 areas make up the majority of most businesses' carbon footprints. So by its nature, the energy one is kind of the most complex. There's businesses vary hugely in the types of energy that they use, the types of fuel that they use. So we've broken it down and made it as simple as possible here. And you'll have seen from the explainer video that we showed at the start that we recommend that people have their utility bills ready and they can just plug the numbers in here. And then they click into travel, materials, and once they've completed the last tab, which is water, there's a button to generate the action report. So this is what the first part of the action report looks like. It's a visual representation of the carbon footprint. So you'll see from this business here that this will be the case for most businesses, that the green part of the graph is the energy, and this makes up the majority of the carbon footprint of this business. And then with travel, waste, and water making up comparatively smaller amounts. You'll see as well at the top of the page here, there's options to share via email, to download the report, or to save it. So we prompt users to register for an account with the toolkit, and that way they can save the progress and share with colleagues. And they can also come back, hopefully in 6 months or a year, complete the calculator again, and hopefully we'll see a visual representation of where they've improved. So it's an incentive to keep going. So next part is the action plan. So this is the meat of it, really. This is where each business will be generated a number of tailored actions depending on the information they've put in. So it'll be targeted to their specific size, their sector, their energy use, their water use. This action plan has 24 actions. And to avoid overwhelming businesses, these can be further split up into ones that are getting started, so simpler ones to embed climate action a bit more into the organization, and then more strategic ones that are maybe more longer term in focus. So you'll see here, I won't show you a lot of actions, but just an example of 1 or 2. At the start, we recommend that everybody appoints either a small number of key staff across the business to be either a green team, or for smaller businesses, a single person who's going to be a sustainability champion. And then we have recommendations around training. And where relevant, where there are supports available, we have them here listed, and these blue boxes each represent a support. So a user can click on this box. So this one, for example, is the SEAI's Energy Academy, which provides free online training. So users can click into this and it'll bring them straight into the Energy Academy. Here are a few more actions just to give a flavour. This one here is for a retail business, and it recommends that they assess their refrigeration equipment to ensure it is optimised to use less energy and resources. And again, here are some of the grant supports that are available. So Lean for Micro, the Accelerated Capital Allowance, SEAI's Exceed Grant Scheme, the Energy Efficiency Loan Scheme, and others. And again, for this one here, this is to review Irish water conservation advice. So that clicks into the relevant support available from Irish Water. So it's really just simplifying the landscape to only give businesses those grants and supports that are relevant to them and their business. So just before I finish my demo of the website here, I just want to highlight our case studies. This is a lovely one here, Cork Flower Studio. There's a video on the website that I recommend you have a look at. It's really nice. They availed of the Leo Green for Micro program, and it shows how some seemingly simple changes can lead to fairly dramatic impacts. So now, to go back a little bit to talk about how we got there and the process in getting to that lovely finished product. It wasn't all plain sailing, I can tell you. So the fund approval, as I said at the start, was the catalyst for bringing together the steering group and for establishing the project team between ourselves and DETE and DEC. And the team drew up the request for tender and the procurement. Contract award, I'll actually move on a slide. I show again, these are the steering group partners that I've already shown you. So this is, I just put a few dates in here. So the fund approval we got in 2020, and we awarded the contract in February 2021 to Matrix Internet. Our working arrangements then with the contractor were, we were still largely working in a lockdown environment when we began working with them. So that kind of led to some challenges as well. But we started off the project with a lot of very open workshops where we sort of brainstormed ideas for branding, design, the user interface, all of those kind of things to give the contractor an idea of what we wanted. And then we had weekly project team meetings throughout. And then the who, in terms of the project team, the core team changed a little bit over the course of the project. It was my colleague Joe Cummins' idea from the start, and it was really his vision that saw us through to the end. But I just wanted to name check everybody that was involved all the way along, because there was a lot of hard work involved in the project. So thanks a million to everybody. And now that's what worked well. So we had strong comms involvement from the start. So the project team, as I said, was jointly ourselves in DETE and our counterparts in Department of the Environment. So we had a rep on the project team from the comm side in Department of the Environment, and that was really good to have from the start, so that we always had that focus throughout the project as to how we would communicate it at the end, how it would play with business, where it would fit into the wider picture. The steering group worked really well. They were able to advise on the content of the toolkit, because of in their expert areas, particularly SEAI, EPA, and others, and then the private sector business organisations, and they all also helped with the comms towards the end. And our enterprise agencies are continuing in helping us with the rollout and bringing it to the attention of their client companies. The weekly project team meetings were fantastic. We had, even if it was quiet, we had nothing to discuss, we had that hour blocked off in everybody's week where we always came together to discuss what was going on, what was coming up, what happened last week, what's happening next week. And before that, we also had a separate weekly call with the developers where we were just given a heads up as to what you need to think about next, what's next in the project. And all along, there was an iterative approach with ourselves and the contractors. So project team, contractors, it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of working together, and trying things again and again and again, and keeping trying until we got it right. And the user testing, I was kind of hesitant to put this into the what worked well bucket or into the challenges bucket. So I kind of put it a little bit over both. It was brilliant and it was a really good experience, but it was tough to pull it all together in time for launch. I'm not sure you can see this spreadsheet in too much detail, but just to give you an idea, this is the spreadsheet I used to track the issues that arose in user testing. So we sent the test link to basically as many people as we could and asked for as detailed user testing as we could for every aspect of the tool, the calculator, the action plan, the content of the website, the information, everything. So we split them into various different categories. So overall look and feel, functionality, technical issues, level of information, the calculator, the actions that were generated, and other comments. And a few things came out fairly loud and clearly out of that some things just didn't make sense, that we had to go back and look at again. And there was a few things in terms of the action report that users wanted it to be made more customizable that we just hadn't got time to do in the user testing phase before launch, so we just had to park. And the big thing for us was that users weren't sure what information they needed before they started filling in the calculator. So that actually led to us developing the cartoon that you saw at the start, which was, I think, great. And it was also a really good tool to use when launching the project. So you'll see here, we undertook, this is the dates here from the middle of October in 2021, and we launched the very first week of December. So that gave us a really intense period of 6 weeks where we had to fix everything that didn't work, improve things that could be improved, and just test all the time. But we got there in the end. So then, in terms of some of the more wider challenges, the time taken, it took longer than we thought it would. And that was nobody's fault, it was no delay, but it was just because of the nature of the project, the need to get it right, the design and the naming. It took longer than you think. So the lovely little tagline, Climate Toolkit for Business and Start Your Zero Carbon Journey, you wouldn't believe how many iterations of that were kicked around before we reached that. It's we went for a vote with our steering group, and even still we didn't like the answer they gave us, so we went back to the drawing board on that. So that took a while. The look and feel of it took a while as well, because we had to abide by the gov.ie branding, and you'll see that there with the slashes and the harp and all that kind of stuff. And the fonts, you're very limited with the kind of fonts that you can use when you're using the gov.ie branding. So it was tricky to do that, but yet to have our own unique look and feel. But I think we've achieved it. I think I like the colour scheme, it's bold. And then the development of the technical development, so the actions and the decision tree was really tricky. we had to make sure that businesses were only getting recommended actions that were relevant to their business. So that we had to work that out on paper, exactly how that would work before our developers could put the IT around that, if you know what I mean. So that took a long time to do, as did the development of the calculator tool. The calculations behind that are really tricky. And we also needed to balance the need for it to give a useful and credible estimate of the carbon footprint, but also not being too complicated for SMEs to complete. So there were a lot of assumptions and simplifications necessary there, and we were tearing our hair out a lot to try and get there. And again, to develop the calculations in a way that the developers could understand and implement in the tool. So if anybody's interested, both of those, the action tree and the calculator, the calculations underpinning it, are all published on the website for transparency, because just so people can see what the assumptions that we did have to make. So I'm nearing the end now, you'll be glad to hear. This is a little bit of this is from our tracker, data tracker bar that's on our website or on our homepage. I update this weekly, so this gives an idea of the kind of numbers who are using the tool. According to our Google Analytics, we've had 28,000 total users, and of those, nearly 2,000 have viewed their climate action report. So that means of the 28,000 who clicked in and looked at the tool, nearly 2,000 have completed the calculator and generated their climate action report. We've got over 300 registered users. So again, these people will have generated the climate action report and taken the time to set up an account. And then we've nearly 400 subscribers. So again, we're looking to improve these numbers all the time. So in terms of ongoing work, this is an example of a recent social media post where we're using the Reduce Your Use campaign. And you'll possibly be aware that at the moment there's a lot going on in government in terms of getting businesses and wider society to reduce their energy bills. And we're recommending that businesses will go to the climate toolkit first, and this will help them target the best supports and grants for them to help them reduce their energy use. We're doing a lot of promotion via presentations at webinars like this and more business focused ones. And we're doing a lot of ongoing updating. The website crucially is built on WordPress, so we have access to the back end of it ourselves. So we control the content. And every time that any of the partner organizations release a new support or change any of your existing supports, we can update it to add them into it in the relevant places. And we have a few ideas bouncing around as well, kind of from work with Fault to Ireland and from things that we didn't get to do during user testing that we could undertake in a potential phase 2. So we hope to put a bit of a shape on these for the rest of this year with the view to trying to do something next year. So that's me. Thanks again to Public Service Innovation. It's been brilliant to have the funding and to have the support of the team. And here's where you can reach us. Here's our URL and here's our email address if you need to ask me any questions. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you very much for that, Aisling. It's great to see that the fund is supporting such an initiative. I think there's definitely an onus on us, I think, to all kind of embark on some kind of sustainable journey, but I think also trying to think, where do I start with this can be quite difficult or might feel overbearing. So it's great that there is an easy and accessible initiative online that can create something custom, which is really fantastic too. It's not just a generic thing that anyone can pull and have to abide by, but it will actually kind of respond to how you work and your own carbon footprint, which is fantastic. So it'll be great to pick up a little bit on that again in the Q&A. So thank you very much, Aisling. Before we go to Q&A though, we're going to hand over to Chris Kiernan for a little bit. Chris, as I was saying earlier, is the Innovation Fund and Strategy Manager. So he's going to tell us a little bit about the next round of funding for 2023 and what's in store for Innovation Week 2022. So Chris, when you're ready.
Thanks, Owen. Fantastic intro for myself there. Really appreciate that, as usual. So yeah, we're going to hopefully launch the Public Service Innovation Fund call for funding on the 26th of October, live from Tangent TCD in Trinity, and we're hoping to continuously add to what the fund can offer in terms of support. And it's not just the financial aspect. There's a lot more to it in terms of kind of continuous service support throughout each project's life cycle. What we're looking for this year is we're categorizing our projects into 4 key categories. It's digital transformation, green and sustainable initiatives, citizen-centric or social innovation, and innovative process solutions. So the innovative process solution concept is basically focusing in the areas of service design. So redesigning services within your organization to improve the efficiency that it can provide, whether to your organization or impact your service delivery to the general public, etc. So that's where we're focusing. We're focusing on those kind of key areas. What we're looking for is exactly what these 2 projects offered. Both projects offered impact in terms of support to the general public or support to SMEs in improving their climate aspects. We're looking for collaboration, and it's something that I probably would pose a question to both speakers: is how much collaboration, engagement, or cooperation was a great word that Aisling mentioned. The cooperation with the other stakeholders to support our projects. We're looking for novelty. We're looking for new ideas, whether it's your own organization or to, you know, it doesn't have to be a new invention, but it could be a new concept to your organization or building on a concept that you probably found from a different project. We're looking for evidence. Okay, so again, evidence to support your project in terms of how you're going to shape the impact that your solution could provide. And again, we're looking for a key procurement plan. So something that probably both speakers may come back and say is the time it takes from the public procurement concept when you're looking for suppliers or vendors to help support the design of the solution. So that's what we're really looking for. We'll have guidelines out shortly that will give more specifications of those points, but that's what we're really looking for when we're looking for our project applications. If we're just going to share my screen just to give a little bit more to what we're doing during Innovation Week. So again, Innovation Week will commence on the 24th of October, live from Cork City Hall, which will be our innovation conference. And again, you'll see, and I'll share this program link, you can register for the online conference, which again, you'll be able to view what's going on throughout today. All our keynote speakers that we'll be talking about from throughout the different teams throughout today. So again, I would say, first of all, if you want to start your journey in innovation, engage, attend our events, reach out to us, and here's a great opportunity to hear what everyone else is doing as well. Following on, we'll have additional workshops, specific workshops with our partners such as Tangent or EY, and these are open throughout the week. I stopped on the 26th because again we have our fund launch, and as I said, we're going to have an in-person and online approach, but we would encourage people to come in person. Yes, it's in Dublin, it's in Tangent, but by coming in person, you have a fantastic opportunity to network with other innovators or potential innovators and learn from each other. That peer-to-peer learning that's so beneficial to a lot of projects in terms of success. And again, there's a great opportunity to hear from previous fund recipients, and it will hopefully be launched by Minister of State Oisin Smith, and we'll have Marion Cassidy from the division head of transformation delivery unit that oversees the fund, speaking about how innovation has really impacted reform and change across public Ireland. And we have other events throughout the week. As I said, just going to get another plug in. 26th of October, the launch of the Public Service Innovation Fund. So I'm going to stop, Owen. Maybe we can open it up to the wider audience for Q&A. Yep. I definitely have a few questions, but I'll let the audience have a go first.
Yeah, so guys, as Chris was saying there, if you want to submit any questions through Q&A or chat, please feel free. So we'll just launch into a couple of questions anyway with the guys before we wrap up. Stephen, I'm just going to pick up on what we were saying earlier, kind of about collaboration. I think for Chris might have stressed there anyway that collaboration, particularly cross-sectoral, in applications for fund applicants, reads very well, and it definitely supports kind of the prospects of a project receiving funding as whether they can prove collaboration in a broad basis. So your project, by your own words, if I read correctly, even some of your partners at the start didn't think that this project might suit them, but you would have seen from your perspective that they would make for good partners in this project. Can you talk to us a little bit kind of about how you went about trying to pull them in or trying to convince them of the merits of joining forces, I suppose, for Smart DETE in Digital Hub? So if you can speak to that a little bit, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, it's a very interesting question. One of the things that we knew from the beginning was that any ideas that we're going to create needed to be additive to what had already been done in the marketplace and in public sector around population health and well-being. It's obviously something that as a country we focus on and we spend a great deal of time and money on. So we had this concept in mind that if we wanted to try and tackle these challenges in a different way, we needed to try and create a different starting point. And so that is why we tried to establish a consortium, a collection of entities that was very representative, but also very heterogeneous. In other words, they were entities that know each other and exist beside each other, but may not have collaborated before. And I use collaboration because it's one thing connecting with organization and talking about things. It's another thing actually doing something together. And I think that is the level we wanted to try and get to with Smart DETE, was an opportunity for these partners to do something together. That's where we ended up having pilots. And that's where we ended up having a model that allowed us to engage with entities that are not necessarily permanently partners, but they come in to work with us on a pilot. The pilot is conducted, and then they can move out, or they can continue to engage in other things. So we have two layers, Owen. We have the partnership, which are a collection of organizations where we basically established at a high enough level a common vision that allowed us to actually then do things together. Keyword is doing things. And then we have another level that allowed entities to join us in executing pilots, again collectively, and that allowed us with two levels sort of engagement. Now we have to put a lot of time and effort into fostering those collaborations. We have to have regular meetings of our partnership. We have to have dialogue with the partnership, engagement at a real level, allow individual partners to have a role and a say in the direction and the speed at which we progress, and all of these sort of things. And those are challenging things to do. It requires resource, it requires time, and it requires commitment. And sustaining that over 2-3 years is another something that you have to work at on a regular basis. We're getting there. We continue to try and improve and develop. We continue to try and communicate better what's going on. That's the area maybe that we will have to work on next. But we're just about to embark on our second phase of action. We've been in operation for 2 years. We're just about to launch and get into our second phase, starting at the beginning of 2023. And with that in mind, if there are entities on this call that think they would like to participate in Smart DETE, be part of the program and help us do things, they should certainly make contact, and we'd be very happy to engage with them.
Thanks for that, Stephen. That's fantastic. I think that's actually a very good way of kind of going about it for people trying to pull in partners who might see themselves in a particular partnership, establishing a common vision and then breaking it down into smaller pieces that could be kind of discussed. But again, it's that common vision that fits into both of your perspectives and both your long-term goals. It's very, that's a great way of kind of going about it, trying to convince partners to join forces. So thank you very much for that, Stephen. A question we have for Aisling is kind of a little bit about the demographic of the project team. So could you tell us a little bit about kind of what the team looked like? Did they have different backgrounds or experience in this area? Or what can you tell us kind of about that? Did you require that they have a particular background in kind of sustainability, or is it perspectives from different cohorts within DETE itself?
No, not really. We're just the project team we're just all civil servants. So it was the PO in the climate action unit in my department, her counterpart over in DEC, the PO over there, a couple of the APs, and then me and my counterpart. So I think most of them are maybe economists. There's a few economists on the team. One comms person, which was great. My background is in environmental science, but not this kind of environmental science, very, very different. So we sort of just learned as we went along, really. And the steering group were great in that regard because they were the experts, the steering group, particularly people from Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland and the EPA and the Enterprise Agency, people who work on the ground day to day with these businesses, they can see what the challenges are. They're the ones who provide the grants and the funding and the supports on the ground. So we relied on them to feed that information into us really, and to help inform the project. So yeah, there was a lot of learning as we went along, and our contractors were great for that actually. They really involved us in every stage and kept us, you know, along with them, if you know what I mean, which was brilliant. It was a really collaborative, iterative approach with the contractors as well. Even though none of us had ever built a website before, you know, we'd no experience of any of this. But we were involved at every stage. It was very, very hands-on.
No, that's great. I know all about building a website. It's no easy task. I totally agree. Thank you very much for that, Aisling. For Chris, kind of with the next iteration of the fund, for those who have never applied or only have an idea in theory or only starting with a project, what would you say to projects who are interested in applying but have no kind of experience in this area?
So the first thing I would say is engage with us. Send an email. Send an email to us, and we can set up a conversation, and we can discuss, and we can provide guidance or support or direction. Going back to what Stephen and Aisling have said, like, we can approach organization that may be doing something in that area or interested in doing that as well. So we can support with connection and collaboration. I'd really say understand what the problem is. Do your research when you're applying. Have a very good understanding what the impact, not the outcome of the project, but the impact of the project. So you look at Aisling's project, but the impact is reduction on carbon, and, you know, reduction on bills, you know, especially where the situation we are now in terms of cost of living increases due to the energy crisis and all the other knock-on effects resulting from other aspects. So having a very clear understanding of impact, and that could be something in terms of, does it provide reductions in operational costs? Does it provide a more enhanced experience to the general public? This is a great example of Stephen's projects. Does it look at challenging or supporting even your organization's strategic outputs for that year, you know, for your organization, or the wider one? So you look at Aisling's project, the wider one being the climate action plan, and how this was one element of supporting that. So again, we're not taking a big chunk of the challenge, we're taking small little bites to get there. So understanding that is going to be very key, and that will very support the outcome of the project and where you finish. And I always say at the start of every fund cycle, what you write in the application will not be exactly what happens when you finish the funding cycle during that year or the next year or year 3. So again, being adaptive, which both speakers were able to do. They were able to adapt to situations, overcome challenges, and we engage in that, understanding those areas as well. So that would be the first thing I would do, is reach out, you know, have that conversation with us. I put in a few links, and one link is actually a link to our funding homepage, which kind of showcases all the projects we've supported. So both projects we've talked about today will be on that, but it also kind of gives you insights what other projects do, and you can see going forward, we're showcasing the potential impacts for all these projects as well, and understanding what that can look like. So hopefully that answers the question, but I would say, I'd definitely say reaching out for us is usually the first step, because again, we're here to support.
Yeah, and I know even lots of the time when if some people are submitting, what we see with applicants is that they might submit an application, but their idea might bear resemblance to another, but they're just not aware of these projects taking place elsewhere in public service. So sometimes when we see these, or you see these, you're able to kind of, again, join forces, kind of see if there's a way that they could collaborate, kind of, again, for the end user, and which would lend itself well to their own applications anyway, proving collaboration, scalability, and transferability. So, you know, you're right, Chris, so reach out.
Yeah. It reinforces what Aisling had said earlier on. That collaboration piece, you're sharing the workload, you're sharing the pain, the challenges, the success, you know, you're sharing, and Stephen said as well, like, you're bringing other perspectives in as well. Someone might see something different, you know, to what, you know, and that is great. And I'll let the guys jump in if they want, but that's definitely something that I can see from applications, from working with the project teams, and hearing it today from two successful projects.
Yeah. I totally agree. Thank you very much, guys. I know we're coming up to one, but I just want to ask you one more question. I kind of put it out to both of you. We love to see projects not only that are successful within their funding cycle, but those which grow afterwards. And I think here these projects seem to definitely be key. They have a lot of momentum. So what I would say to both of you is, I know, Aisling, I know you're still kind of in phase one, kind of the climate toolkit for business, but I know you kind of mentioned phase two. I don't know if you have an idea as to what you would like to see that kind of becoming, and then Stephen as well. Where do you foresee then Smart DETE kind of going from here? So, kind of out to both of you, kind of a synopsis as to where you think your projects are going to go.
I'll jump in first then, if that's okay. Thanks, Owen. Yeah, I've mentioned a little bit. We're still at an early stage. There was a few ideas, as I said, that we couldn't really. They just didn't fit in the time frame or contract of the first phase of the project. So things we'd like to improve on. We've had a little bit of feedback, particularly from tourism sector businesses who've used it, and some work we've done with Fáilte Ireland. So they are looking at taking it and developing it a little bit. And I think one thing that they thought might be useful would be to provide a bit of a benchmark. So rather than just giving a bold, this is your climate or your carbon footprint to businesses, that this compares with X to similar businesses worldwide or something like that. So I think they're looking at doing something like that for tourism businesses. So we'll work with them on that. And if that works, we might roll that out to all businesses and incorporate it into phase two of the project if that's possible. So simple ideas like that, but there are other things. There are kind of wider ideas as well. I mean, a lot of people are talking about calculators for the scope 3 emissions and things like that, which are almost impossible to calculate. So I'm not sure that that's possible in this type of a toolkit, but it's something it's there, it's in the mix. So we've a lot of threads and ideas and things that we want to put together. There's still plenty of road to go with the current iteration, especially as you mentioned, Chris, coming into the winter that we're coming into and the energy bills as they are. There's an awful lot that can be done within the scope of the current tool. So we'll keep going with that and keep promoting it as best we can to help businesses become more energy efficient and use whatever funding is available to them, because there is money there. It's just a case of knowing what to apply for and where to go.
So in terms of Smart DETE, we're just about to embark on a new phase of activity. So we are certainly at the moment looking for any entities that would like to participate in the program to join us to concentrate on health and well-being and looking at that as a population challenge. We will be launching a new set of pilots in the new year in 2023, so there'll be opportunities again to participate on and make an application for funding and support to develop pilots in this area. We are specifically trying to balance public and private, so we'd like to see some more companies and corporations involved, again, right across the gamut in terms of their ability to bring technology to bear, international best practices to bear, and looking at how that could be integrated into the offerings of healthcare professionals in the area of public services in general. So there's some very interesting opportunities, I think, for those on this call and others to participate. And our plan is to continue the program through 2023 and 2024. And we're looking as a consortium to pool our resources again and have a plan of action in terms of doing pilots both in 23 and 24.
That's great. Thanks for that, Stephen and Aisling. It's great to see that the projects definitely have momentum and they keep going, and there's plenty of scope for them to grow. So just want to thank you both very much for your time presenting today. I think Innovation Fund is one of the jewels in our crown in OPS here. I think the fund almost best placed itself to rely on the earned expertise and experiences of public servants. It's people working on the ground who have the ideas, and the fund gives opportunity to those people for their projects and their ideas to make to fruition and benefit the citizen. And both of these projects, again, have come from completely different perspectives, but for the benefit of the public. So it's fantastic to have had you on today. greatly appreciate your time. And as we were saying, please feel free to reach out to us at innovation@per.gov.ie. Even if you just want to have a chat about an idea you might have for the fund for the next iteration, or how to go about even whatever it is, trying to convince people in your organization that your idea it merits attention and an application, please feel free to reach out. And again, Innovation Week, jam-packed agenda. Please see ops.gov.ie for the full agenda, and be sure to register for as many events as you want during the week. So until next time, I think we'll be back in the second week of November, if I'm not mistaken, for another fund-related innovation event, but it will be more focused on the application process, which I'm sure we'll be bogged down with at that point anyway. We'll be very busy with. So again, thank you very much, Aisling and Stephen, for your time, and Chris as well. Until next time, all the best. Take care.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks, everybody.